to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Introducing from Atlantic City, New Jersey, weighing in at 210 pounds, your Italian hero, Joey Image!
Hey everyone, how are you? This is your boy Joey Image. Welcome to episode 31 of the podcast. And again, I am that image guy. Thank you all for downloading this, for subscribing to it, for sharing, for spreading the word, for retweeting, for sharing on Facebook. Whatever you guys do, I appreciate it, as long as it kind of brings us all together, right? So I'm going to try to make this a short episode, as I say every single time, but it usually doesn't happen. I'm going to talk about 3 different people in the world of professional wrestling that have been in the wrestling news the last week. And that's basically it. I mean, it's going to be a very wrestling-heavy episode. I try to, and I've said this in the past, but I try to stay away from wrestling on this podcast because I did it for so many years, and everyone knows my story already, and anyone that's got any wrestling questions have already been asked, have already been answered, I should say. And there's so many wrestling podcasts out there. We don't really need another one, even though I will claim that I was the first to do it. Other people make that claim, but I was doing it in 2004. And I don't know a lot of other people that were doing it in 2004. Actually, I know 0 people that were doing it in 2004. So myself, Lance, Todd, and Dave from Baltimore, Maryland, we did it first. Anyway, enough of horn tooting. I'm going to talk about 3 people in the world of wrestling that have been in the news in the past week. The first of which, I want to bring up the unfortunate and very sudden passing of Axl Rotten. I don't want to start the show off on a downer, but I think what's worse is ending it on a downer. So I kind of want to get this out of the way, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean, like, I don't want, people to get bummed out listening to this. But I obviously have to bring up Axl, Bryan Knighton. I knew him very well. We met 6 years ago, January of 2010, January 23rd, 2010, which I actually didn't know that until I looked on his Facebook yesterday and I found the picture of us. It was the first time that we had met in person. Now, back 1,000 years ago, 2000, I think 5 or 6, we did an autograph session in the city. And there was a bunch of us. There was myself, there was Velvet Sky, there was Brutus Beefcake, there was the Misfits, Mike Graves, who I knew when I was a teenager. He grew up about 5 or 10 minutes from where I live. So there was Romeo Roselli, a.k.a. Johnny Heartbreaker. He was there. There was just a lot of guys there. And at the time, Eric Tapout and myself were kind of brainstorming ideas for me for a new gimmick. We were going to do something called Bar Brawl Joey Image. And basically, I was going to just be like a guy that would start bar fights and just kind of beat people up and get beat up and, kind of the ECW-ish hardcore style stuff. And that's what I was going to run with. And we were going to try to debut it or introduce it at this autograph session. And, of course, it would be caught on film at an actual bar. That's where the autograph signing was and the meet and greet was at a bar. So we were going to do a little thing there. And so it looked like it was legitimate, like it actually happened there. And this was, not part of a show or angle. And the opponent was supposed to be Axl Rotten. Axl was supposed to show up. We were going to talk. He was going to get a little bit loud. Or I'm sorry, I was going to get loud with him, me being the rookie at that point, which I'd only been in the business 5 or 6 years at that time, maybe 7. But still, Axl with much more experience than myself. And we were going to start fighting, and it was going to kind of go into this bar brawl scene, I guess you'd call it, which would then evolve into the gimmick of doing that. What happened was Axl never showed up that night, so we never actually did anything. I mean, I didn't bring gear with me because it was supposed to be a brawl, not a wrestling match, so I wouldn't have had gear with me anyway. So we just went ahead with the night and didn't do anything. It was still a great night. It was a really awesome night. I had a lot of fun. I got interviewed by the Aquarian that night, which is a music newspaper that I've been reading since I was a teenager, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, Axl didn't show up. And that was, again, about 2007. So I didn't actually meet him in person until about 3 years later in January of 2010. We were both booked for CPW, which I believe was Classic Pro Wrestling. in Scranton, Pennsylvania at the St. Mary's Center, which was always a great building to work in. The crowds were awesome. I always had a blast. So we were on the same show together again, January of 2010, and we met, and he wasn't anything like what I thought. I remember thinking, like, oh my God, am I going to actually finally meet Axl Rotten? Like, on the way there, I remember thinking, I'm finally going to meet Axl Rotten, dude. Like, Bad Breed and Ian Rotten and Axl and Balls Mahoney and Taipei Deathmatch and taped fist with broken glass. I mean, Jesus Christmas. I would love to have done at least one of those matches, just to experience it, just to say I did it. But anyway, he was not at all what I expected. I expected like a psycho, out-of-control nut job, and he was just the most coolest, calmest, down-to-earth, just, hey man, let's talk. I like this, you like this, you're cool, we're going to be buddies. And it was like we talked about music and food and wrestling and, TV shows and movies. And we just had a really good conversation, and we talked all night. It was awesome. I told him about, how some of the stuff I had my injuries I had. Talked about some of his injuries, and we talked about a bunch of stuff. I mean, we talked about a lot of music. He was a big, big music fan. I remember him telling me that I think he went and saw Kiss like 4,018,000 times or something like that. Like, any chance he got to go see Kiss, he would, and he mentioned them a lot. He really kind of displayed his love for them, which I thought was really cool. And it was just a really good day, a really good night. Really good conversation, and we kept in touch. We exchanged phone numbers and email addresses. We actually took a few pictures together that night, and the one thing that really, really kind of touched me was we took a picture together, and it's on my Facebook and his Facebook. But what happened was he asked Rock and Rebel to take the picture. Rebel took the picture, then I took one of them, and then someone took one of all three of us at some point, but I don't know where that picture ever ended up. But the picture of him and I was taken with my iPhone. So right after we took the picture, he told me, hey, can you do me a favor and email that to me? I don't have a smartphone. So I want to put it on my Facebook page. I said, all right, no problem. So I emailed it to him, and then the next day he put it on his Facebook page with the caption, "Me with Joey Image." Now, when I meet someone that's famous or well-known or whatever, I always put, like, myself with ABC. So it was very touching to me that he put "Me with Joey Image," because it made me feel like and made me look like I was a star, which I've never been. So for him to put me over like that really, really meant, and again, with his history and how long he had been in the business at that point and how short I had been at that point, for him to kind of put me over like that and not even mention his own name, just say, I'm here with Joey Image, here's this picture. It just meant a lot to me. It really did. It still does. I mean, the day that I heard he passed away, I went to his Facebook and looked for that picture and found it. And I'm still, like, amazed that he kind of put me over in that way. He didn't have to. He didn't have to talk to me at all. He could have just said, hey, get the hell out of here, kid, or whatever. But he was not like that. He was just one of the coolest, most down-to-earth dudes I had ever known and ever met. And I'm so honored to have known him. We like I said, we kept in touch a lot. He had been on a podcast I used to do years ago. He was interviewed on there, and I mean, that admittedly didn't go very well, but we talked after that, and he apologized. But we also saw each other at shows, obviously, just from being in the same area. He worked a lot of Pennsylvania stuff. I worked a lot of Pennsylvania stuff. So we would see each other a lot. We would text back and forth, like just little shit. Hey, how are you? How you doing? Hey, where are you working this weekend? Oh, yeah, I'll be in, Georgia. Oh, yeah, I'll be in Pennsylvania. Blah, blah, whatever. It didn't, nothing special. I mean, we didn't have any heart-to-heart, like, deep thoughts conversation or anything like that. We just kind of hit it off and talked like friends, and, it was really cool, and he was a very cool guy, and I'm very, very sad to see him go, and I'm not sure what exactly happened. I've heard a billion different things that all contradict with each other, so I really don't know what's going on or what went on, but it was not a very good day for news, and I was not expecting to hear that this guy had passed away. So I hope he rests in peace, and I hope that he's never forgotten. And if I could just give him one last shout out and just say, Bryan, I love you, brother. I'll see you down the road. And now moving on to another news story from this past week. Awesome Kong released from TNA because of a backstage altercation with Matt Hardy's wife, Rebby Sky. Now, I don't know the whole story here. I only know what was put out on the internet, and I didn't really delve into it too deeply with Kong herself. A lot of people know her and I are very close friends. We have been for a long time. She is very near and dear to my heart. She has always been a big supporter of mine, including a time where I was just depressed and down and out. Some things had gone on in my personal life as well as wrestling, my career, that just kind of, I don't know, just wasn't me. And she called me on the phone and gave me like an hour and a half or 2 hour kind of pep talk, I guess, and let me know, that it was okay and, everything's going to be all right and blah, blah. And it's not even like, it's just the fact that somebody gave a shit enough to call me and say, hey, listen, man, here's what's going on and here's what's going to happen. And I know all about it and things will be all right. And I always thought that was cool, and I always really, really appreciated that. There was a couple of friends of mine, Chris Decker, my best friend being one of them, that called me and we had these kind of long heart-to-hearts. And it was just very cool that she took the time out of her schedule while she was touring with TNA at the time. And she took the time to talk to me again for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I just always really appreciated that. And she's been a very close friend to me ever since. And, I owe her a lot. I quite literally owe her my wrestling career. At least the fact that I came back and didn't... essentially what happened was I was injured at the time, so I was out. I had my knee surgery on my left knee. I tore my meniscus and busted up some cartilage, and I had some arthritis going on. So essentially I was just so down and out, and it was my first major injury where I actually had to take scheduled medical time off. And I was just so bummed and depressed and didn't know what to do. And there was some stuff going on in my personal life as well, and I just kind of had been, done with everything. I just wanted to say, fuck everything, everything's done, it doesn't fucking matter. And, we had that talk and everything turned out to be great. And so if there was ever a time where she needed help, I always tried to be there for her as well. So, it's 50-50. I mean, we're friends, you know what I'm saying? That's what happens. And I'm also very happy of the fact that very recently her and my girlfriend have become close friends as well, which I think is awesome because, we hang out. I mean, we just saw her a couple of weekends ago at TNA, I guess 3-4 weekends ago in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for the last set of TV tapings, which just aired within the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, we hang out. We hung out in Florida. We went to dinner together when my girlfriend and I were on vacation. Went to dinner with her and her fiance, and then she was up here again, as I said, for TNA. We went to the show, and then we went to dinner afterwards. So, it's very cool. She's not just Awesome Kong to me. To me, she's just my friend Kia, and I think she's amazing. No pun intended. I think she's awesome. So I know, just from knowing her and from talking to her and hanging out with her, I know she'll land on her feet, regardless of what happened or what allegedly happened. I know she'll be fine. She'll land on her feet. I'm sure her phone is ringing off the hook with bookings. I'm sure there's companies trying to get her under contract, trying to get her, to sign for dates or whatever. So, she'll be fine. I'm not worried. I know she knows what she's doing. I know she knows how to take care of herself and take care of herself financially as well as emotionally and, work-wise. So she'll be good. Again, I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't have any definite story. I never asked her about it. It's not my business. If she wants to talk to me about it, she will. But it's not my business to ask, hey, what happened there? So is this true? Or I heard the dirt sheet said this. Like, that's just not my deal. If she wants to talk, she will. But just as I know her, as a person, I know she'll be fine. And I trust that she will make the right decisions for herself and her career. And, that's what matters. So, best of luck to her, and I'm sure I will hopefully talk to her soon. And if you go to my Facebook page, you can see the pictures. If you look under a photo album called Florida Vacation 2015, something like that, you'll see the pictures that I'm talking about where we went to dinner. There were a few people that asked me about those pictures, so that's where you can go ahead and find them. And finally, the last person I want to talk about that, again, was in the wrestling news this past week is Bryan Danielson, a.k.a. WWE's Daniel Bryan. A lot of you, of course, everyone knows by now what's up with him, that he retired on Raw this past Monday night. And it was very emotional for him, very emotional for his wife. It was very emotional for a lot of fans. I mean, there were people on Twitter saying, oh my God, I'm crying. And people on Facebook were like, oh, the tears and the Kleenex I need right now and blah, blah, blah. So y'all know what happened. Basically, he got injured. He had a lot of concussions. He's got some brain issues. He's got a lot of neck issues. I know that too. But the reason why this hit me is because I have the same, I shouldn't say the same. I have a very similar neck injury. Basically, if you follow the story about Nikki Bella's neck injury, she and I have the same neck injury in that there are damaged discs, and at least one of those damaged discs is pressing against our spinal cord, which is what's happening to me, which is what happened to Nikki Bella. She had the surgery. I haven't had the surgery. So the difference between what the injuries that her and I have and the injury that Bryan Danielson has is that he doesn't have discs pressing on his spinal cord, as far as I know. That was not addressed. That was never been said. So I don't know, if that's a part of it, but that hasn't been made public if it is. Again, Nikki Bella and myself have one injury with the discs pressing on the spinal column. He doesn't. But it's, the fact that it's a severe neck injury and he's been concussed a lot of times, and the fact that he had to retire because of it, and the fact that he's 5'8" and 190, and I'm 5'8", and I was 190 for a very long time, between that and 195, so very similar size to Bryan Danielson, and the fact that it was just, he did the speech in front of the crowd, and that he had been working for almost very close to 16 years, that hits directly home for me, because I did a extremely similar speech in front of the crowd in June, and I also had been working. December was 16 years. I retired in June. So just 6 months away from 16 years in the business. Now, I'm not, before some idiot says, like, you're comparing yourself to Bryan Danielson. No, I'm not, okay? I'm saying our injuries were parallel in that they're very similar. We both had to stop wrestling because of it. I never compare myself to someone who is obviously many, many, many times better than I ever was. Okay, I'm not stupid. I'm also not arrogant. So the people that think, oh, you're comparing yourself to him, no, I'm not. I'm simply saying we have similar injuries. That's literally what I'm saying, and that's where it ends. But just wanted to say that it definitely hit home with me because I am and was in that exact situation. And I was in tears too, just like he was. And, it's emotional. We go through, speaking as a professional wrestler right now, not speaking as, someone who watched the Bryan Danielson thing, but just speaking as a professional wrestler as myself, since I was 3 years old, that's all I wanted to do. So I was 9 years old, that's all. I had been watching since I was 3, but since I was 9, that's all I wanted to do was wrestle. So that's 30 years. So for 30 years, I've wanted to be a wrestler, even in the last 16 that I am, or was. So it's just so emotional that the fact that you don't necessarily choose when you end, I had a doctor choose it for me. Bryan Danielson had doctors choose it for him. It sucks. Let me tell you, from personal experience, it sucks. Same thing with Nikki Bella. I don't think she's coming back. I know she says, I'm going to get my neck fixed and I'll be back. I don't really think she is, and I don't think she should if she does. And in fact, I said the same thing when Bryan Danielson first got hurt, because I recognized the neck injury that he had that I had. And I said, he's not going to be back. He's done. And then he came back for, 2 months or 3 months, and he got hurt again, and he was out again. And I said it again. I said to my girlfriend, we had a conversation about this, because she noticed the similarities in our injuries when he first went out. And I said, again, initially I said, he's done. He's not coming back. And then when he came back, I said, he won't be around long because his neck is too bad. And again, 2 months or 3 months in, and he got hurt again, and he's been off ever since. And we haven't seen him a lot. We saw him on Tough Enough, and that's about it. And now he's done. And, I feel like, man, this sucks because, I know exactly how this feels. And it's not at all fun. It's not something I wanted to do. It's not something he wanted to do, and it obviously showed. And there was a picture that was released today. I don't know when it was released. I didn't see it until today, of Danielson backstage. And I don't know if it's before or after he went out to make his final speech, but he's like crouching down to the ground, like he couldn't hold himself up. He was in such grief over the fact that his childhood dream is over. So he was in tears, and his wife, Brie Bella, was there with her arm around him, consoling him. There's a picture of myself in the ring after my retirement speech where I'm in tears as well, and I'm holding my girlfriend, and she's consoling me in the same manner as Brie Bella is in this picture. It's very striking to me how similar, not the picture themselves, obviously, the different position. I'm in the ring, I'm in my gear, and, he's wearing street clothes or whatever, but just the sentiment of that photo, the sentiment of both photos, how they are so similar and how they both kind of hit me in a certain way where I know, yep, man, I know exactly what this dude's going through. And the fact that I am way, way, way down at the bottom of the business and he's way, way up on top, it doesn't really make it very different because right now we're both done because of the same neck injury. So I'm not comparing myself to him. I would never do that. I would never insult him that way by comparing him to me. But I do know where he's coming from. I do know what's going on. And I do know and understand why he had to retire. And I really think it sucks. And I'm trying to make a positive out of a negative in the sense that I just donated. And in fact, I just sent the paperwork in today. It was accepted. I've been approved. I have agreed to donate my brain, obviously upon my death. I asked them if they could take it right now. They said no. But I have agreed to donate my brain to Chris Nowinski's Concussion Legacy Foundation. Basically what they do is studies of the brain. I've been concussed many times. I don't know how many times because, it's only been actually diagnosed once where someone looked at me and said, holy shit, you're concussed. But, I've taken 1 million hits to the head, some with weapons. So I know that there's stuff going on up there. I have very frequent short-term memory loss. I have don't remember a lot of long-term stuff either. But day by day, I kind of remember stuff further and further back. But I have very big memory problems with short-term memory. There's been times, I'll give you a story that, again, this is not me putting myself over. This is just me telling you my experiences based on my injury and based on my brain capacity, I guess. Okay, but I'll give you a quick story. In 2006, Mick Foley, first of all, let me give you a backstory. But Mick Foley wrote in one of his books, I think it was his first book, he wrote stuff about how he would forget directions sometimes going to arenas that he's been to several times. And a couple of times he would stop and call his wife and say, hey, I don't remember where I'm going. Like, how do I get to such and such? And I always thought, like, that's bullshit. He's just exaggerating. He's making this up, in an attempt to sell more books. He's trying to get babyface sympathy and drama to sell more books, is what I always thought. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I'm working for World Star Wrestling in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. And again, just like the Mick Foley story, this was a hotel. It was in a hotel conference, not a conference room, but a big meeting room. Almost like if you go to Comic-Con, like the smaller Comic-Cons, or the Chiller Theater, for example, in Parsippany, New Jersey is a great example. Like that. Like it's a big oversized banquet / meeting room where you can have events. And they fit a ring in there and stuff. So I would go to these shows out of work. They were every 2 to 3 weeks usually. And I would always, go the same route there and come the same route home. And there was one time in, I think, 2008 or 2006. I don't know. But I was coming home from a Hazleton show, World Star Wrestling at the hotel. I think it was at the Best Western or something like that, or the Ramada. It was the Ramada Inn in Hazleton. And I couldn't remember for the life of me how to get back to Route 80 East. And I pulled over and I called my girlfriend at the time. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm on this road. Can you just look this up on like MapQuest or whatever and let me know where I'm going? And the signal, the cell phone signal and the internet signal in Pennsylvania at the time was terrible. So I was usually lucky to get a cell signal, and I almost never had internet, or I had Edge, which if you know Edge, it's slower than dial-up. So I would never, ever use it. But she, I called and I asked her and she got kind of upset. And then when I got home, she was like in tears saying, you can't do this anymore. Like, how do you not know how to get to a place you've been to every 3 weeks, essentially? And so, again, at the time, I was like, wow, like Mick Foley's not bullshitting. Like, this is legit. This can actually happen. So that's kind of an example just of what I'm talking about when I say how I've got memory problems. And again, it's short-term memory, not usually not long-term. Long-term, I tend to remember a lot of stuff. Short-term, I don't know, what happened 6 hours ago. So anyway, back to the point of this was that I understand the extent of the Bryan Danielson injuries. I understand the extent of the Nikki Bella injury, and I know it really sucks. And part of the reason why he also figured he should retire, as he said in his speech on Raw the other night, was that he wants to start a family with his wife. If you guys read my 3 R's, the blog post I wrote when I first found out that I was done wrestling, that was also a big thing for me. I said that. I had a new girlfriend, my current girlfriend, Angela. We had just met a few months before that. A few months before I decided that I was done, we had met. And also, for me, it was a big thing that I don't put her in the position to have to take care of me at 40, essentially. Because I'm 38 now. Had I continued wrestling, I could take one bump and be paralyzed. And then I'm supposed to expect her to take care of me, literally 100% forever. I can't do that. I'm not that, I don't have that big of an ego where I need her to do that for me. I don't want to put her and our future at that kind of risk. I'd like to hope we have kids one day, at least one. So it's kind of the same situation that Bryan mentioned on Raw. So I hope, that makes sense to a lot of people, and I hope people understand it, that his injuries are very severe. And I say that because I know so many people think it's a work, it's bullshit, it's an angle, it's a storyline. I heard people today, listen to this, I heard people today on the internet, I read people on the internet today say that it's a work and that they're only making him retire so they can put Roman Reigns on top, and instead of having Danielson lose to Reigns, they don't have to do that. Now they can just push Danielson out of the way, essentially, and they can put Roman Reigns over. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Just ridiculous. I mean, the guy left because of injuries. That's the bottom line. He retired because he's too beat up. His neck, his head, his brain are just too beat up. That's exactly what happened to me. My neck, my head, my spine. I don't want to say my brain because I've never really been diagnosed with any brain damage other than concussions. I just kind of say that because I have so many memory issues that I assume there's got to be something wrong up there for, I like to try to lighten the mood a little bit. I always tell people that if that comes up in conversation, I say either I have two wires in my head that are touching that shouldn't be, it's making something go wrong, or there's wires in my head that aren't touching that probably should be, and that's why there's something wrong up there. So, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I just go by what my doctors have told me, and I've never had my brain checked. Here's another story. This one might be kind of funny for you. I actually went to get my head examined. You know when people say, God, you got to have your head examined? I literally went to do that because I was having so many memory issues. And I went down, filled out all the paperwork. I did a couple of preliminary tests, and the doctor said, all right, I need to see you again in 2 weeks. We're going to do ABC, whatever it was. And I never went back. And you never guess why. Because I forgot. Because I'm an idiot. Because of my brain. So now I think that's funny. At the time, I was kind of like, wow, like that's not, that's really not good. But now I think it's funny. But anyway, just to kind of wrap this up and let you guys kind of get out of here. I don't want you to listen to my crap all night. It's already been close to 25 minutes. So, but all in all, I understand the Danielson injury, and I know how severe it is, and I'm happy, very happy that he decided to retire when he did, so he does not cause further injury, which is kind of the same thing I was thinking about myself and my girlfriend and my future and our future. I don't want to stick around and get hurt any more than I already am because I don't know how severe it can get, and I don't want it to be that bad ever. So, with that, best of luck to Bryan Danielson. Best of luck to Awesome Kong. Best of luck to every single one of you listening. I appreciate you guys so much. You really have no idea at all how therapeutic this is for me, just to be able to talk to you guys every week. It really means a lot. Please follow me on Twitter at JoeyImage. Please add me on Facebook at facebook.com/realjoeyimage. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/JoeyImage. Also, please subscribe to this very podcast on iTunes. Just go to the iTunes store, the podcast section, and just search for That Image Guy. Or if you go to my Twitter, again, it's at JoeyImage. Look at my profile. There's a tweet that's pinned right to the top of the page. All my links are there for iTunes, SoundCloud, stuff like that. So again, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you on my next show. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Three Ropes Media Network. For more, find us on Facebook at facebook.com/3ropes or visit us at 3ropes.com.
Hey, how you doing? This is King Firehawk from the King Firehawk Show. Just telling you, hey, 1640 PWPR is the home of Pro Wrestling Podcast Radio. If you want to interact with the shows, all you got to do is tweet us at 1640 PWPR, or you can go onto our Facebook page. It's a fan page, and we're waiting for you. It's 1640 PWPR. the home where pro wrestling podcast radio lives.